Hello, you're on the Ruslan Belov channel. In the morning and at night, strikes hit nearly all districts of Kyiv. The city is covered in smoke, the city is on fire. Ukrainian telegram channels were warning, "Do not open your windows," due to the thick smoke screen. Meanwhile, we continue to analyze the situation on the front lines. Let's move to the map. So friends, yesterday was quite successful in terms of territorial gains. Over 20 square kilometers came under control in just one day. Most importantly, there were several critical breakthroughs. Let me briefly mention the situation in the Sumi region. Very intense battles are currently ongoing in two sectors. In Unakivka, where about 60% of the village is under the control of the Russian army, and on the approaches to the urban-type settlement of Khotin. These are two key defensive nodes that are currently preventing Russian forces from making rapid advances. But yesterday, information appeared, and I also published it on my Telegram channel based on Ukrainian sources, that Russian reserves are now being transferred to the Sumi region. More than 40 trucks, plus self-propelled artillery, plus air defense systems are being moved to this sector, to this bridgehead. In short, the main events here are still ahead. And I am more than confident, I have no doubts, that by the end of the year, we will reach Sumi. Now let's turn to the main advances. The Toretsk front, which has essentially become the Kostiantynivka front, continues to bring good news. There were two significant updates in the past 24 hours. First, the troops advanced from the reservoir toward Denipropatrovsk. The advance was just over 1 kilometer, about 1,100 meters to be exact. From the current positions to the village of Denipropatrovsk, the distance is less than 2 kilometers. However, obviously, advancing like this is dangerous. A flanking attack could cut off the advancing troops from their main forces. For now, the forward movement is not too deep, about 3 kilometers. But it's crucial to straighten and clear out the pocket here, or ideally all the way along this line to the Denipropatrovsk railway station. The direction of movement is clear, and so is the objective, to reach the approaches to Kostiantynivka. Therefore, from Velika Dilevka, forces are attempting to push toward Bilahora, from Dilevka station toward Alexander Shultin, and from current positions toward Denipropatrovsk in order to eventually enter Ivanopil. And so far, as we can see, the army is achieving success. Even more success is taking shape in the pocket between Toretsk and Myrnohrad. Take a look. Yesterday, a major breakthrough was achieved. Our guys on motorcycles launched from the village of Zaria, covered over 4 kilometers, and burst into Alexander Kalinove. Not only did they break in, they managed to take control of the southern part of the village. The advance inside this heavily fortified residential area of the Ukrainian armed forces amounted to 400 meters. A video showing our attack surfaced yesterday. You can see the guys riding motorcycles, artillery firing at them but missing, and them rushing into the village. This video is now circulating online. As for future prospects in this sector, they look quite promising. To summarize this sector: 1. The depth of the breakthrough is 4.2 kilometers. 2. The area brought under control is around 10 square kilometers. 3rd, troops managed to enter and hold the village, advancing 400 meters inside it. 4. Both Yablunivka and Alexander Kalinove are powerful defensive nodes on the approaches to Kostiantynivka. Beyond Alexander Kalinove lies the Kleban-Buk reservoir, and just past that is the city of Kostiantynivka. From the current positions, it is 8.5 kilometers to the city. That may seem like a lot, but just 2 weeks ago, the distance was 17.5 kilometers. Now it's only 8.5. That means 9 kilometers have been covered in 2 weeks, and 3 villages have been taken under control. Even if we're slowed down at Alexander Kalinove, which is a major defensive node and will likely offer stiff resistance, even if it takes 4 weeks instead of 2 to close the remaining distance, we could still reach Kostiantynivka by mid-July, and fighting for the city could begin. For now, everything seems to be unfolding in that direction. We'll keep watching together. As for the Pokrovsk direction, there is no significant news at the moment. Things remain difficult here. On other fronts, entire sectors are collapsing and 3 to 4 kilometer breakthroughs are happening daily. But the Pokrovsk front is static. Advances here are extremely rare, and even when they occur, the gains are minimal. If we look further south, the front is moving, and moving well. First of all, a video-confirmed advance to the regional border and into Denipropatrovsk Oblast has occurred. This was achieved by troops from Kemerovo, Siberian assault units. Even American maps now reflect this because you can't argue with video evidence. The advance here amounted to nearly 4.5 kilometers. And we now have a new front in Denipropatrovsk Oblast. The next target is the large village of Novopavlivka, where 3,500 people lived before the war. As you can see from the map, it's a fairly large settlement. From current positions, it's now 6.5 kilometers away. But I believe the forces won't overstretch, since that would be risky. First, the flanks will be secured. However, given the massive collapse further south, the advance toward Novopavlivka, likely from both flanks, is not a matter of months, but of weeks. What collapse am I talking about? The large village of Alexivka, where prolonged battles were expected, was taken in just 1 week. The American map here is inaccurate. Yesterday, footage from the 114th Brigade showed Russian flags all over the village, on the eastern outskirts, in the center, and on the western edge. So unlike what's shown on the map, the entire village is under Russian control. Some might dismiss this and say, well, it's just the 114th Brigade claiming that. But Ukrainian military analysts confirmed this as well. One Ukrainian soldier with the call sign Mukhnoi wrote the following: "In Alexivka, l'expletive total mess. If you knew what's going on there, you'd have no hope left for this war. I made contact with the guys, they barely managed to get out. Not all of them did. Some of ours are still stuck in the village, and sadly there's only one way out for them. I was told the enemy takes no prisoners in this sector. Alexeyevka is fully under Russian control. The enemy is now advancing toward the outskirts of the village of Zeleny Kut. What more can I say? The 114th Brigade once again pulled off a miracle. The village is large, over 4 kilometers long, with over 4 kilometers of residential buildings. Ukrainian analysts had claimed the AFU would hold the area for about a month. Instead, the 114th took it in just a week and has already reached the outskirts of the next village, Zeleny Kut. But as you can see, Zeleny Kut is a very small settlement. Just one street, about 700 meters long. Obviously, they won't be able to hold it. A village like this simply isn't meant for defense. If they couldn't hold Alexeyevka, then holding Zeleny Kut is out of the question. So the path from these positions to Novopil is now open, and there's another important point worth noting. See these fields? Very soon they'll be heavily marked in red, tens of square kilometers. Because holding positions in open fields without residential structures, without flanking urban areas, will be impossible. They'll have to retreat, I don't even know how far. Possibly 20 kilometers back. So the Ukrainian soldier Mukhnoi is right to be crying and saying, "You understand." But I'll say it like this. This is only the beginning. Things will get much worse for the AFU, and there's no realistic prospect that they'll be able to turn the situation around, fix it, or even stabilize it. Now let's move on to the political side of things. In Los Angeles, things are going very badly. The US president is calling for troops to be deployed. 2,000 National Guard troops were previously sent to the city, but clearly that's not enough, writes Oleg Tsarev. The protests are escalating. Burned-out police vehicles are everywhere, hastily built barricades, trash, and crowds of shouting illegal immigrants waving Mexican flags. Large, well-organized groups have appeared on the streets, hurling profanities at Trump. The LAPD has declared a tactical emergency and recalled all officers from leave. The city's police chief said they are shocked by the scale of the protests. Apparently they'll be calling in the Marines. The Pentagon placed them on alert yesterday. Meanwhile, the Democrats continue to insist the protests are peaceful. Even Kamala Harris suddenly declared that the use of force in this situation is unnecessary. Where have I heard that before? Was it during the Ukrainian Maidan? Zarev writes, and keep in mind, California has more than 3 million illegal immigrants. The globalists are trying to create as many pressure points for Trump as possible, entangling him in multiple crises. For the first time in 60 years, the Trump administration used National Guard forces without state government approval. The Trump administration responded to the LA protests as if the country were on the brink of war, according to the New York Times. This isn't a constitutional crisis yet. but it's clearly a worrying trend. Ukraine's explanations regarding the failed prisoner exchange are hardly credible, said Dmitry Peskov. Russia is adhering to the prisoner swap agreements reached in Istanbul. The Russian offensive in the Denipropatrovsk region is, among other things, an effort to create a buffer zone, an instrument to maintain stability and security in Europe. NATO was created for confrontation, and Russia will inevitably have to respond to the alliance's aggressive actions, including those by new members. At some point, Russia will reserve the right to deploy medium and short-range missiles in response to NATO's actions, Peskov stated. Russian delegate Vladimir Medinsky said that if Ukraine had genuinely wanted peace and was making decisions independently, a peace treaty with Moscow would have been signed on February 28, 2022. The draft agreement prepared for the Istanbul meeting in 2022 was 19 pages long. Putin personally edited the first 2 pages. After Zelensky received the agreement in April 2022, he remained silent for 2 weeks. Then Boris Johnson, the US Secretary of State, and the Pentagon chief arrived in Kyiv. Back in 2022, the Ukrainian delegation at the negotiations seemed more independent and free in its decisions than it does today. Medinsky believes that in order to stay in power indefinitely, Ukraine's leadership needs perpetual enemies and ongoing conflict. He added that the families of Ukrainian officials are safe abroad, holding British passports and living comfortably. The Wall Street Journal reports that Iran has purchased a large quantity of ammonium perchlorate, a key component of solid rocket fuel, from China. The buyer was an Iranian company, the seller a legal entity registered in Hong Kong. Experts interviewed by the WSJ estimate that the amount of ammonium perchlorate bought by Iran would be enough to produce 800 ballistic missiles. The WSJ believes Tehran aims to restore the influence of its regional proxies, weakened after Assad's fall in Syria. The US, in the middle of nuclear talks with Iran, does not appear overly concerned. A much greater threat to Tehran is Israel, though Netanyahu, according to Israeli media, reportedly promised the Americans not to launch surprise attacks on Iran. But that could change quickly. If Israel sees Iran restoring its military capability amid Trump's hesitancy, they might use this perceived weakness to, as they say, settle the Iran question once and for all. A nuclear bomb could appear very soon. Iran doesn't yet have nuclear weapons, but it has all the necessary materials, confirmed IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi in an interview with the Financial Times. According to him, Iran's nuclear infrastructure cannot be destroyed by a single precision strike. The facilities are deep underground. Grossi said all hope lies in the ongoing negotiations led by the US, and there were reports that Steve Witkoff allegedly even presented a general outline of a potential agreement. However, Grossi warned that threats from Israel mean the Iran issue has enormous potential to spiral into catastrophe. If talks fail, it will most likely lead to military conflict. That's all for now. Stay safe, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next update. Take care.